Hello and very warm welcome to English News Bulletin. Here with you with top stories from Turkey and Kurdistan. 20-year-old Kadir Inan was shot on the chest as a result of the fire opened by police following Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan's election rally in the province of Van. Supporters of the Erdogan attacked Peace and Democracy Party members after the rally. Kadir Inan, who was shot on the chest as police opened fire to break up the fight, is being given medical treatment at the Istanbul hospital. Inan, an employer of the Grand Hotel, was reportedly watching the incident from a balcony of the hotel when he was shot. On the other hand, police also attacked the BDP Central Election Office in Van as PM Erdogan passed by the office after the rally. The tear gas attack of police forces was responded by people with stones. 2 people were wounded during the conflict. A large number of police forces have surrounded the city as those attending the AKP rally are leaving the meeting area. 2 days ago, police critically wounded 10-year-old Mehmet Ezer, who was hit in the head with a tear gas canister after the BDP's election rally. Ten-year-old boy Mehmet Ezer shot by Turkish police with tear gas canister in Diyarbakır, a southeastern city of Turkey. Mehmet Ezer was admitted to Dicle University Medical Faculty Hospital in critical condition.
Police hit Mehmet Ezer in the head with a tear gas canister in Silvan district of Diyarbakır during a BDP Peace and Democracy Party rally. While Mehmet Ezer was admitted to Dicle University Medical Faculty Hospital in critical condition, doctors said his health improved throughout the day. According to Fırat News Agency, Mehmet Ezer was sent to another hospital because Medical Faculty Hospital had no neurosurgeon staff. Mehmet Ezer's family, many members of BDP and Gültan Kışanak, BDP Diyarbakır Metropolitan Municipality Mayor co-chair candidates, have arrived outside the hospital as soon as they heard of the incident. A group of people protested against Mehmet Ezer's shooting by the police. According to the updated news, the police dispelled the protesters with tear gas. On the other hand, Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan expecting to go to Ahmed today to join the election rally. On 28th of March 2006, 14 people, including 7 children, got killed by AKP's police officers. The order of those killings was given by Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
Güvenlik güçlerimiz çocuk da olsa, kadın da olsa, kim olursa olsun gerekli müdahale neyse bunu yapacaktır.
YPG keep fighting against Al-Qaeda-linked ISIS members in Kobani and around Kowtown. 25 members of the Islamic State of Iraq and Al-Shaham gang groups were killed in fierce clashes in western Kurdistan's People's Defense Units YPG in the eastern and western region of the Kobani city on Wednesday evening. According to the reports obtained from YPG sources, ISIS groups launched an attack against the Khurab Eto village in West Kobani late Wednesday evening. Clashes broke out as YPG forces responded to the attacks, killing at least 9 ISIS militants and also seizing a vehicle of theirs carrying an anti-craft weapons. Clashes around the village have been reported to be continuing this morning as well. Several clashes broke out as ISIS gangs fired mortars targeting villages in the west of the Kobani city where clashes broke out following YPG response to the attacks. 12 ISIS members were killed in an operation YPG launched against a cultural center used as a base by ISIS groups. ISIS gangs also attempted to enter the Kandil village in the east of the Kobani city yesterday. The ISIS groups whose 4 members were killed in the village, had to retreat from the region following fierce clashes with YPG forces. Local sources report that the village of Zor Mekhar, Evdiko, Kendal, Grizor, Veneto and Bir Kıdık in eastern Kobani were also targeted by artillery shootings. PYD co-chair Asi Abdullah spoke about the progress of the revolution in Rojava and the recent attacks by the ISIS on Kobani.
Abdullah began by stressing the need for an end to the violence and the implementation of a political solution in Syria, saying, "This war will be hampered more by politics. No solution will be found through violence. This war mentality, which is continuing in Syria between the Ba'ath regime and the various gangs, will not be accepted by the people in the long run. We, the Kurdish people, also do not accept this. Behind the war that has enveloped our region are political goals. Why then? The formation of the cantons and the construction of democratic autonomy is providing an example for the peoples of the country. But this has made everyone's attitude clear. Autonomy means a complete alliance of the people of Syria. It expresses their will. It is a government of common life and self-government through the will of the people. There is peace, freedom and equality within this system. The people must respond united to all attacks." Asi Abdullah went on to speak of the many different armed groups fighting in Syria and questioned the motives of many, saying, "According to our thinking, the armed groups in Syria need to make themselves clearer. It is seen that those who say they are fighting for Syria's freedom are not fighting for freedom. They're not fighting in the service of the Syrian people. They're fighting to empower certain political forces in Syria." The goal of the attacks in Rojava and Kobane is install the Islamic State of Iraq and Sham, ISIS, in the lands of Syria. It is seen that those who say they're fighting against the regime in Syria are connected to the regime. Abdullah emphasized that it was not only Kurds who were sacrificing for freedom in Syria and taking unity as their principle, and that all the peoples had exhibited resistance and had close ranks around Rojava.
The pilot of Syrian fighters jet down by Turkish Armed Forces TSK due to border transgression made a press statement in the hospital where he was receiving treatment. According to Syrian news agency Sana, the pilot defended himself that he was 10 kilometers away from the Turkish border and he had not transgressed the border. The pilot said he was cashing after the armed terrorists in Kasab district of northern countryside of Latakia, a port city of Syria. After he completed his mission, he was targeted by a missile. Following his jet hits, he said he immediately evacuated from his jet, following off with a parachute. The pilot of downed Syrian jet spoke in the hospital in Latakia, and he defended himself that he had never transgressed the border. BDP's local elections rally continued this week with participation of thousands of people in Dep, Dersim and Çolik. Thousands of people met today show their full support for Peace and Democracy Party, BDP.
Thousands of people joined BDP's local election in district of Elazig, Dep. Hundreds of convoy greeted the co-chair of Peace and Democracy Party, Selahattin Demirtas, at the entrance of the district. Another mass rally take place in Dersim, where tens of thousands of people chanted slogans in support of BDP. BDP's co-chair Selahattin Demirtas spoke at the rally and demanded full support for BDP.
Demokrasi bloğu da aramızda. Misafirlerimizi okuyoruz.
Thousands of people gathered in Çolik to greet BDP's co-chair and mayoral candidates.
On 30th of March 2014, local elections will be held in all over Turkey to elect municipal and city mayors as well as municipal and city councils. Turkey has a very centralized political system and government, so it is a very top-down hierarchy. Even the candidates for local elections are appointed from the central party administration.
To change all that, HDP continues to conduct an election all over the Anatolia. In Istanbul, candidates are making visits and doing public meetings. The workers told the HDP candidates they had not been visited by any other political parties. The HDP candidates and party workers promised to maintain their solidarity with the workers. Kayush Çalıkman Gavrilov is HDP's Armenian candidate, says not just for Armenian, but they will also work to meet Muslims, Christians, Turks, Armenians and Greek people's needs. She added that this is truly a revolutionary approach to politics in highly centralized, authoritarian Turkey, where all of the decisions, even the local ones, are made in Ankara, the capital city. We know Turkey is going through a difficult transition period right now from state knows best authoritarianism to hopefully a more open democratic future. We hope to be part of the solution to ending the darkness by bringing a ray of hope to light the way for everyone regardless of their background. On the other hand, attacks against HDP's party continues. A group of racists have attacked the HDP's district building in the town of Ödemiş in Izmir yesterday. Racist groups wanted to download the flag of HDP. The group shouted slogans against the PKK and HDP and head off towards the HDP office. Today's target of racist fascist attacks this time was the headquarters of HDP. Unidentified persons threw stones made to the headquarters. After the event, HDP members came in front of the headquarters. Besehozad made important evaluations on Turkey's local elections and called on the people of Dersim to show their disgust at the CHP at the ballot box on 30th of March. Ozad said,
The Republican People's Party President Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu exposed his true identity when he made the grey wolf sign in Ankara. There is no difference between the CHP and MHP, saying that the HP was an alliance with America and Gülen movement.
Ozad said the people of Dersim were aware and that Dersim was a symbol of resistance, citing the examples of Seyit Rıza, Sakine Cansız, Mazlum Doğan and Beritan. Besehozad says the 30th of March local elections were for the Kurds a referendum for democratic autonomy and the freedom of the leadership, and continued,
Our people demonstrated their demands for freedom and democracy at Neros in a powerful way. I'm sure this will be reflected on 30th of March when our people will approve the system of self-government.
Ozad said the people of Dersim were one of the sections of the people that most deserved self-government, as Dersim had enjoyed autonomy for hundreds of years, adding,
The massacre in Dersim was an intervention to remove the autonomous structure there. Dersim resisted in the most noble, honorable way. The soil of Dersim was soaked by the blood of those who resisted. Hundreds of women threw themselves from precipices in order to avoid capture. All the rivers were clogged with bodies. The bones of those who resisted and struggled for freedom and communal democratic values continue to be found. This is the honorable reality of the resistance in Dersim. 8 journalists have been released in Kurdistan Communities Union KJK's press case and 37 in the KJK main trial in Istanbul last night.
46 media workers, including those for Dicle News Agency, Fırat News Agency, Özgür Gündem, Azadi Avela, Democratic Modernite and Fırat Distribution, were arrested on 20th of December 2011 following the so-called KCK operation. In a sense, the journalists are accused of being part of the so-called urban organization set up by the PKK. The case against media workers was opened by Istanbul 15th High Criminal Court, authorized with the 10th article of the anti-terror law. There are 7 journalists now who have been remanded in custody since the operation. On the other hand, 37 out of 70 Kurdish politicians tried in the so-called KCK main trial in Istanbul have also been released early last night. As of 1st of August 2012, some 76 Turkish journalists were in jail, and at least 61 of those were imprisoned as a direct result of their work, CPJ stated. Many of the arrested reporters were Kurdish citizens of the state or were affiliated with or working on continuous issues, including attempted overthrows of the government, Kurdish and Armenian rights, and more. The Turkish government did not respond to requests for comment in time for publication. Under the law's definition, journalists writing about the PKK or Kurdish rights in general can be charged with making terrorist propaganda and imprisoned. In 2012, many of the journalists imprisoned in Turkey were either Kurdish or working for Kurdish media outlets.
We will comment on this, expecting a phone call. My friends are trying to arrange the phone call. A court in Turkey has ordered the suspensions of controversial ban on the social media site Twitter, but it could be a week before it takes effect. Turkey users of Twitter expected to regain access shortly after the ruling, but remained blocked.
Turkey's users of Twitter expected to regain access shortly after the ruling, but it remained blocked. The country's telecommunication authority, TIB, has 30 days to decide whether to lift the ban. Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan vowed to wipe out Twitter after users spread allegations of corruption. Twitter itself has filed a challenge to the access ban. It said it had acted on 2 out of 3 Turkish legal orders, but had concern about the third order, as it was a request asked to suspend an account accusing a former minister of corruption. Turkish media reports suggested the ban would be suspended soon afterwards, but a source in Mr. Erdogan's office told Reuters news agency the TIB had 30 days to implement or appeal against the court ruling. 30 days is a standard period in such cases. Various artists protested the Twitter ban in Turkey with their drawings.
Now to comment on the release of the journalists, my colleague journalist Nedim Tufan is on the line with us. Good evening to you, Nedim.
Yes, I'm here.
Nedim, now 37 journalists today with politicians have been released. How do you evaluate this? And what happened to the rest of the journalists? Are they still detained, or when they're going to get released?
As you know, after the specially authorized courts had been abolished in Turkey, this KCK press case was directed to Istanbul Third Heavy Penalty Court, and then the lawyers of Kurdish journalists applied to court for their release, for the claims of release. After then, last night the Kurdish journalists were released, and only 8 were released. The rest of 7 of KCK main lawsuit and 7 states remained under the custody. The released journalists are Semiha Erenkuş, Nevin Erdemir, Kenan Kırkkaya, Mazlum Özdemir, Mehmet Emin Yıldırım, Hüseyin Deniz, Haydar Tekin, and Şemus Fidan. These journalists are the media workers of this news agency, Fırat News Agency, the Yıldız Özgür Gündem, and Azadiye Velat, Democratic Modernity and Fırat Distribution. Kurdish journalists were arrested on 20 December 2011 following the so-called KCK operation. There are 7 journalists now that have been remanded in custody since the operation. It has been evaluated in the public opinion that these recent releases are the part of election investment of AKP government. Already, all the jailed journalists were not released due to the fact that the rest are being held as hostage still there are dozens of journalists and press labelers in jails of Turkey and Kurdistan.
Nedim, can I just ask, now the so-called KGK cases has been continuing for years now. Why specifically during this period those journalists have been released?
The journalist, one of the journalists of the Dia editor, Mazlum Özdemir, spoke after their release, and he said this had come about an account of the democratic struggle, adding the current restriction on social media began with our arrest. Özdemir called on the government to take immediate steps to release all other journalists. Özdemir said the aim of the arrest had been to repress the Kurdish press in particular and to press in general. He added they were arrested jointly by the AKP and Gülen movement. Their release was not a failure of the government or the judiciary, but resulted entirely from the democratic struggle of the Kurdish journalists and Kurdish people. The attitude of the AKP government and the Gülen movement to press freedom and has not changed. The purpose of the putting the Kurdish journalists is to silence and deter them, but nearly all of our colleges now continue to write and to be productive. As you know, many people wrote books. They didn't stop thinking and creating. They will not continue from where they left off. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Nedim. Thanks for joining us and for your participation.
Good night.
Good night, thanks. This was it from us for tonight. We will see you next week on Thursday. Thanks for watching us. Goodbye.